In this video we're going to have a look at editing the audio of a clip. We'll also have a quick look at importing a soundtrack or creating narration. So the first control that we'll have a look at is on the scene line, and towards the far left we have the change track volume, so we can increase or decrease track volume with that, and it should apply to the entire clip, and it's increasing or decreasing the volume depending on how you drag the slider. You can be selective in your editing as well. Remember that we've got two audio fixed effects. We have volume and balance, and this is what we'll look at now. So with volume we have the clip audio, or the clip volume rather. By default it's set to 0.0 decibels, and that's the gain for the entire clip. If you wanted to increase the volume across the entire clip, we could just drag the slider right up to 6 decibels, or we could drag it left and all the way down to -infinity decibels is completely quiet. So like I say, by default it is set to 0, which can be a bit tricky to get to with the slider, but remember, if we just click on top of a number we can type in the required amount. We also have fade in and fade out buttons. So fading in will drop 2 keyframes. The first keyframe will be at 0 decibels, and then the second will be at 0 at the start of the clip, and then we have fade out, and again that will drop 2 more keyframe markers. The second to last will be at the 0 decibels, the last keyframe will be at -infinity. So that fades out the volume. With balance we have the option to change the speaker which the sound is coming from. So again, by default it's set to 0, which is both speakers at the same time, and then we can drag it right to 100, and so it's only coming out of the right speaker. We can drag it left to -100, so it's only coming out of the left speaker. Bypass allows us to bypass changes that we've made as we go through it, and again this will drop a keyframe so that we can make the changes that we've desired. Changing the clip volume and balance in this way can be a little bit tricky, because we can't see, or we can't necessarily hear what's going on as we're making the changes. It is slightly easier if I just go down here. Again, be aware that I'm using Elements, or Premiere Elements 8, so the buttons will be slightly different on previous versions. We can go to Audio Tools, and then we have the Audio Mix option. The Audio Mix option brings up the audio mixer, and from here we've got Audio 1, Narration, Soundtrack, Audio 2 and Audio 3, so these are the different channels in which we have sound coming in. And if I just increase that a little bit, Audio 1 will be the video audio, Narration, if you've added narration, will be that one, Soundtrack again if you've added a soundtrack, and so on and so forth. So as you add channels they will be affected by these mixers. Here we've got the balance at the top, and you see we've got left and right, and dead center is 0, and then we have the level, the volume itself, and again by default it's set to 0. It is suggested that to have the sound volume perfect for human ears, it should be between 0 and -6 decibels. We also have a mute switch on this dialog box, and that means that we could mute out different audio tracks to concentrate on one specific audio that we're working with, and then unmute them to hear how that change has affected the – sound. So the mute button doesn't cancel the sound necessarily, it just allows us to mute out tracks whilst we're working. So what I'm going to do is go back to the start of this clip, and remember that I can keep the mouse button or the mouse cursor in this area and press the space bar to start the clip, so that I'm not having to jump between the two, so that we can make immediate changes. If I press play, and I'm wanting the sound to be a bit lower, so all I have to do is drag down the slider and the sound gets lower and lower, and we can see that through these little green markers on the left and the right hand side. So the sound is very low. If we wanted the sound to go higher, we just increase the decibels. If we want to change the direction the sound is coming from, we can go with the left speaker, and you see that the sound is now only appearing on this level. We could drag it over to the right, and then it's only coming from that direction. Then if we center again, oh, I've lost my mouse cursor. Do be aware we can also change it if it all goes horribly wrong in the number box. So that's making changes to the audio as the clip is playing, and if I drag this across to the side, can you see that I've dropped an incredible number of keyframe markers in this clip. These are for the audio, so this is where I was dragging the slider up and down for the audio, and then we've got the balance keyframes as well. So as we add or as we make changes with the audio mixer, it applies those keyframes to the video. If you find it's all gone horribly wrong when you listen back to the audio, it's a lot easier to get rid of all of these keyframes by just toggling animation off. You recall that will delete all of the existing keyframes, and then we can start again. So that is changing the audio of the clip itself.